This is awesome.
Yes, Joey.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you very much.
So for people who don't know, Joey is spent some time as a Navy SEAL, and we thought, today is September 11th, 20-year anniversary, and, we want to go over the mindset of a SEAL, what you went through, and I just want to say, Joey, what you did, your sacrifice, thank you so much.
Thank you for having
And-
me.
From by my heart, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Joey. And this you don't know because we kind of revamped our podcast. So you are our first guest with our new revamped podcast. So
Correct, yes.
really, you're the first of many, and thank you for joining us.
My privilege and pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. So tell us about yourself, Joey.
So, wow, I've had a circuitous run through life. I grew up in South Jersey, town Collingswood, outside of Cherry Hill, just outside the suburbs of Philly. And my parents got divorced when I was 5, so Mom raised me. Still got a great relationship with both parents. And Mom raised me. That was a struggle, so, she kind of tried to wear both hats, Mom and Dad. She tried to show me culture, would do her best to get me into athletics, and I kind of chuckle at that because the irony is there was no athleticism, like zero. So we'll fast forward later into the military, but she kind of sheltered me. I went to a bunch of different schools, moved around a lot. She remarried, excuse me, I moved up to Massachusetts when she remarried, and then I moved back in with my dad and stepmom to finish up high school, 87 and 88 respectively. Graduated in 88. And like a lot of stereotypical young men, I had really good school, academia, but my pursuit of good grades was mediocre. I was like a BC student. Did well on my SATs, but I wasn't going to be going to college. So Dad kind of posed me with, well, you could kind of, stay here and be a townie. And of course, I didn't know what a townie was. And he's like, well, you go get a job. And I just thought, man, if I stay here in South Jersey, I am going to wither. And he said, well, why don't you consider the military? Uncle John's in the Navy. And so I don't really know much about the Navy. My Uncle John was doing well with it. He was a career Navy man. And he met with me, and he said, we should go see the recruiter. And again, at 17 years old, I had no direction in life. I moved around a lot. I had a lot of different friends, but I never really felt like I had a semblance of belonging or home. Mm-hmm. So I went to the recruiter. And everything he was saying was just in one ear and out the other. I wasn't drawn to it. And I looked up, and there was a poster on the wall, said Navy SEALs. And it had 4 operators in cami, in the water, about chest high in water, weapons drawn. Now mind you, this is 1987, there's no movies, there's no books, there's no hoopla to what the teams are as compared to today. So I look at this, I'm like, what are those guys? And he's like, well, that's special warfare, that's the SEAL teams. And I said, what does that do? And he starts describing it, and I'm thinking, okay, we have Rambo, we have Commando, Arnold, and Sly movies, one-man wrecking crews. I'm a skinny kid that's got no confidence, and I'm thinking, there is no way I'm cut for this. So I was like, I don't think so. He said, well, the one thing that you might like is that it's the SEAL teams, and that's the word that queued me up. And I said, well, what do you mean with teams? He's like, well, you have to be special individually, but it's a collective unit. You've got 2-man teams, 4-mans, respectively, like you're always working in a unit. So the cohesive that sense of potential belonging is what drew me in. And that day I said, I'm committed. Now, mind you, at 17, you can't go in without parental okay. So Dad was loving it. I mean, his friends were teams in the military in Vietnam, Mekong Delta. So they served. He only didn't go in because he had multiple knee surgeries, but a lot of his friends were 5th Group Special Forces in the Army. So he was very familiar with what the military and special warfare operators require.
Mom's
wasn't so
a
thrilled.
different story. That's what I'm thinking now. Mom.
As a mom, you can liken that.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked her, and she's crying already. I mean, Mom is crying. I haven't even done anything yet. I haven't signed anything. And I'm like, well, and the switch went off for me, and I was really cold about it. I said, well, listen, you can sign, and I'll go into late entry program the next year when I graduate. Or I said, I'll sign at 18, and you won't hear from me again. And she was just bawling and signs it. So we fast forward, I go through it, I go through all my mental screening, the physical, and basically waited. So I graduated in June, I went in the military in September, delayed entry program. I chose Operations Specialist, which is an A school that you go in after boot camp. It's gotta be a SEAL rating, you've gotta have a certain job that if you don't make it through BUDS, BUDS is the acronym for SEAL training, it's Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL. So if you don't make it through BUDS, you've got to have a job that the Navy can still position you. Because the reality is, I don't know what the numbers are now, but back then it was about 80% of the guys that make it to BUDS don't make it. So you've got maybe 50% quit, medical dropouts, maybe some academia, if there's an issue with an attitude, and there's a lot of variables. Even if you are a triathlete, a bodybuilder, the best athlete, the best guy, Eagle Scout, there's a chance you're not going to make it. So me, of course, having no background, I didn't play any sports, I didn't excel at anything. I kind of ran track haphazardly, and I did a little martial arts. I make jokes because the day of my prom, I didn't go. I stayed home and hit the heavy bag. I was training for buds. So, I was locked in on this. And I went into Great Lakes, which was my boot camp in Chicago. Did my 8 weeks. Navy boot camp is very easy. Okay, so if you're going to go in order, in my opinion, you've got obviously the Marines, the most difficult, then Army. Probably Navy and Air Force can fight for the bottom as far as what's the easiest physically. During that 8 weeks, though, I had to get up every day, and I would train in the middle of the night. I would put the bunk bed racks together, and I would do dips. I would do pull-ups in the bathroom stalls to try to get ready for this test. So the BUDS test, it's the third or fourth week. They got me up at like 2 in the morning because you still have to do all of your work, but you have to go at like 3 in the morning to take the test and still be at the chow hall at 5 with the rest of everybody else. So I remember 26 of us took the test. It was, fairly challenging. It was a 500-meter swim and 42 push-ups and 12 pull-ups and some sit-ups and a 1.5 mile run at respectable times. And in my opinion, if you can't make this test, there's no way you're ready for one day at BUDS. That's what a leap it is. And even I thought I wasn't prepared for anything once I got there. So out of 26 people, 2 of us passed. And that's out of 900 members of boot camp.
900 members. Wow. That's mental toughness.
And this is not a movie. This is not like a video game. These are real men doing this. This is like real deal stuff.
Oh, the 900 that went into boot camp, they're all, talented mentally, physically.
Yeah.
And then the 26 were people that said, no, I want to be a SEAL. This is my calling in life.
Yeah.
And out of that, there were 2 of us that made it. And the other gentleman that made it with me, he failed the background for the mental.
Wow.
So it was really an eye-opening experience, and I haven't even scratched the surface at that point. And that was end of September of 1988.
So let me ask you something, Joey. Do you think that it's more, at that point, it's more mental than it is physical?
I think it's more physical in the beginning.
In the beginning?
Yeah, 100%.
Than mental. Because I want to try to help our clients and our dieters reach that mental capacity, or stop making excuses, or setting goals and following through.
Well, to that point, that's a great segue. I believe you've got to be 100% mentally cued in before any major decision. So I'm just.
But how do you get there?
So for me, and I'm kind of leaping forward, and then I'll come back. Anything I do now, I always go to my frame of reference. The hardest thing you've been through in life, and we've all had that crucible moment. Loss of a family member. I mean, I've written mortgages for 20 years, so foreclosures on a property. Did you lose your home? Were you displaced? Do you have a family member with a life-threatening illness? A divorce, a loss of a child, a relationship break, a business failing, anything that took you to your knees physically and emotionally, respectively, and you said, can I make it through this? And then you do make it through it. So once you've been there, you've got that. We all have the skill set. I'm no more skilled than anybody else. We all have this inherent skill set to survive and even thrive through what we would consider madness. So when you look at something, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, and a lot of the stuff, I've been to his seminars, I've listened to a lot of his stuff. The one thing that always stuck with me, and I'm talking 17, 18 years since I saw him in the Meadowlands, is the pain-pleasure principle. So we can look at anything and say pain-pleasure. Cigarettes, pain or pleasure. Chocolate cake, pain or pleasure. Getting fit, pain or pleasure. So you need to outweigh the pain of whichever and make it your pleasure. Case in point, my diet is never 100% clean. I mean, I have a cheat meal or may stray once in a while. But I look at 80 to 90% of my week and I say, the potential pain, if you will, of not having pizza every day, which I love carbs, or a calzone or a sandwich, or someone, it's the glass of wine or whatever your go-to binge might be, the pleasure for me of feeling better the next day, the next several weeks, and being able to do whatever it is, and it doesn't need to be extreme endurance events like I do. It could be hiking, it could be parasailing, it could be just walking with your family, getting up and down.
Moving, just
Yeah.
moving.
Just do something.
Moving
do
is
something,
life.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And how important you think it is to set goals?
Critical.
It's critical. For
I-
motivation?
just for discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Keep yourself honest. And I set scary goals. And the reason I do that is one of my former bosses in the mortgage industry said, how much would I like to make? And I said, I'd love to make $100,000 in sales. And of course, you've got a limitless sales ceiling. I mean, you can make 7 figures. And there's plenty of people that write origination that do quite well. But he said, okay, so you want to make $100,000 in 1 year. What's it going to take to do that? So we started going over applications, assuming fallout, appraisals don't come in, what have you. He says, what happens if you do 50% of your goal? I said, okay, I make $50,000. He says, you're not going to be pleased, are you? I said, no. He says, set a goal of 400,000 and work to the point that you need to get there. And if you fall on your face 50%, you've doubled your original goal.
You say that all the time.
All the
Always
time.
10x it.
Always 10x
10x
it
it.
because
Absolutely.
your mindset then changes. What else do I have to do?
I love that.
And it's the same thing. It kind of goes back to what you guys do as SEALs too. You have a mission, you have an objective, and that objective has to be finished. So I always say you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And that's where the success comes, because now I started the diet. I'm 6 days in, down 12 pounds. I'm not drinking,
Congrats.
no carbs, no nothing. It's like I'm mentally focused in. I'm uncomfortable. I have the keto flu. I don't feel
Yeah.
good.
Right.
It sucks.
No, it's terrible. No,
Yeah.
but I guess that's what I'm trying to. So what would you do if somebody came to you and they said, I want to lose 20 pounds, but, my kids are starting school.
Sure.
So-and-so's playing this sport, that sport. I just can't focus on myself.
If I get a new client, the first thing I ask them is, what is your go-to if it's something like a junk food. So I had a client that came to me and they said, well, I'm really disciplined. I want to work hard. I've got this, but I'm not going to give up Cheetos. I eat them all the time. And I said, I can't work with you.
Yeah.
And I did. I'd rather not take their money. And I don't want to mislead them that I can out-train their diet.
Can't.
Now, I'm not saying that they have to be eating kale and spinach and be miserable. I want everyone to have a good relationship with
Right.
food.
Correct.
We're fueling our body, okay?
Right.
We like to say over at Mud, Sweat, Tears, we're not training and we're not exercising and dieting. We're training and fueling.
Mm-hmm.
Fuel your body, okay? I would rather someone came to me and said I ate a little too much or ate something poor than starve themselves. I would always rather they come and say, I ate a little too much, my macros are a little off, but they're still moving, and we can always work within that.
You can work with that.
Correct.
So what did you say? You couldn't work with them because they wouldn't give up Cheetos?
Well, because they weren't at least willing to make that sacrifice.
And did they change their mind?
No.
They didn't?
No, I don't know what they did.
Really?
Yeah, they went off.
Okay, so...
And you can't help them at that point. It's all up to them. It's up to you to decide. And we were talking
So
off
you don't
camera.
believe you can get somebody's mindset.
Oh, you can, but they've got to want to help themselves.
They've got to want to
Yeah.
help themselves. So how do you navigate through that? That's what I'm saying. How do you navigate through somebody who's making excuses?
I ask them to say, what is the most important thing? And when they say my life, my fitness, I'm X pounds heavy, or I want to gain some muscle, or I've lost confidence, whatever their desire is, I'll say, before we even train, I'm going to show them what I can offer, because I want to make sure I'm a good fit. Because even though I like what I do for training and I like to think, I certainly care about people, and I think that's the one gift that I've learned getting into fitness is I really care about people. But I would never make everybody do a cookie cutter workout. I'm certainly not going to make them do my workout. People message me all the time privately, and they're like, I don't want to do what you do. And I said, I would never ask you to do what I do.
Yeah.
You probably can't do what I do.
Yeah.
Well, but even if they wanted to, I'd say, well, it took
Start.
me time
It's right,
to get
right.
here. So to your point, I always say, write down everything you do for a week. Now, I did this in mortgages, and I found I was at the water cooler talking about sports and everything else during the day and not making hardcore phone calls or database management or whatever the revenue generating operations I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
We all get caught up in faxing that piece of paper or making a copy of this, things that are non-revenue generating but are necessary tasks. So I said to them, write down everything. How long are you on social media? How much time are you, scrolling through whatever? Are you on TV? Are you, I get it with the children and everything else. Everybody's got 30 to 60 minutes a day that they could
Prepare.
put for themselves.
Or put
Absolutely.
for themselves. I agree with you on that. Yeah,
and
I
even
absolutely
taking
do.
the gym investment out of it, let's just say they say, I can't really afford to make an investment with a trainer. You could still right now the temperatures are beautiful. You can move outside.
Right.
30 minutes a day of walking.
Yeah.
You want to take it up a notch, you could certainly put like a ruck on and make it weighted. You could do walking lunges. Verona Park's got pull-up bars.
Yep.
I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you don't need to invest heavily. And then if you want to fine-tune your training with a trainer, make sure that they're a good fit. And again, that's where the overlay of nutrition would come in. I also ask, how are we with sleep? And everybody looks at me kind of bog-eyed, and they're like, oh, I don't sleep well. 3 stools to the fitness, 3 legs to the fitness stool, training and nutrition everybody's on, but rest and recovery is the one thing we don't talk enough about.
Yeah, no, and it's funny that you said that. I say to my clients all the time, you find the money.
True.
Right? Because as much as you can find
Yes.
the time that you're on social media,
Absolutely.
and you can find the money, because we do spend the money on things we
Oh,
want to
yeah.
spend it on.
When you
Absolutely.
stack away
It's
money,
absolutely
money
true.
gets bored. Money finds a vacation. It
Yeah.
finds a purse. It finds something else. So
Right.
put it towards something good.
Right.
And
What
then
do I
get-
always
get a
say to the
return
women?
out of it.
When you're in the body you want, you don't care how expensive your handbag is.
So,
I always
Very
when you're
well said.
unhappy, the more expensive the handbag
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, to
True.
your point, when I was less happy, I used to party. I mean, I went out drinking. I was a clubber. I went out a lot. So now the money that I don't do that, I put into better food and supplements for my body. So exactly, to your point, you can reallocate the money.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree.
Even LeBron spends over $1 million a year on his body, just on nutrition
Well-
and trainers, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you know that women, when they're unhappy with their weight, spend an average of $10,000 to $12,000 more a year on
I did-
frivolous things?
I did not, but it's a believable
Men are
number.
6 to 8,
Yeah.
but women are $10,000 to $12,000.
Well, and it's I'm digressing a bit, but to your point, it's society, right? I mean, we were all impressionable, you know, especially now that social media, there's influences and everything else. So we're so fire hose sprayed with what society wants us to think is important. And if we can get away from the imagery, and it's tough, we're all human. I mean, we're all impressionable to a point. But yes, to that point, instead of kind of just throwing all the money at whatever we're wearing or holding or what have you, and I'll talk to a client and say, look, we spend so much on those cars, houses, bags, hair, nails. My wife's a hairstylist, so I mean, she's
Right,
very
you know.
talented. Cheese straightning and updos and coloring.
And you know what women spend.
Well, I know a portion of it.
Yeah.
A little slice of it. And again, it's important. You want to feel good about the way you look, but by that same token, got one body. You know, when we get a vehicle, we want to take care of it. It's proactive, taking care of it, so it's not reactive. Rotors or brakes are going, boom, now you've got a big expense. If you change the pads out regularly, maybe you minimize the risk on the rotors. Same things with tires and rims, same things with engine and
Transmission.
Your
and-
house,
Absolutely.
anything. And maintenance is key.
And we, unfortunately, you know, a lot of people my age and older are already on a couple types of medication. And I mean, that's another thing with what's going on, obviously, with COVID.
Yes. Yep.
you
I
know.
would love to talk about this because
Yeah.
now it's take a pill,
Yes,
you know, take a shot, you know, get healthy.
agreed.
Get healthy, lose the weight. 78% of the people in the ICU for COVID are they're obese.
It's not talked about enough.
It's not
It's
talked
not
about.
talked about
It's
enough.
I
not.
agree.
And the image too that you say that we're looking at social media, we like those images, but we
Sure.
don't want to work for it. So
Right.
there's a complete disconnect.
And if I can add
And-
one thing, a lot of that is not real also.
It's all
A lot
fake.
of it is
So-
not real.
Filter.
I mean, I talked to the other coaches. There are some people that look extremely fit, and they couldn't handle one of our workouts.
Correct.
They just are gifted with glutes and abs, and
Yep.
they look great, but they can't functionally move. So I would rather functionally move
Move,
well,
right.
and hopefully aesthetically I'm okay, but then look great and not be able to pick something up.
Right,
So,
exactly.
You know, that's our goal. Is I want you to enjoy the other 23 hours of the day outside the gym.
Yeah.
You don't live in a gym. We wouldn't want you to live in a gym. I do because obviously I dwell there. But for everybody else that comes, your time is precious. So you're making time for yourself that 1 hour of the day or 30 minutes, whatever the session is. Come in, get after it. Make sure you're recovering well and hydrating and fueling and rewarding yourself. Maybe some self-reflection every day, you know, reminding yourself of why you're doing this. Being kind to yourself. We're all really good about taking care of other people. We need to take care of ourselves also.
Exactly.
Especially
Be-
women.
Yeah.
Especially women. How important do you think positive talk, self-talk is?
a
It's
zillion.
everything.
Because people,
Off the
listen, we all
charts.
have thoughts.
Yeah.
How many thoughts do we have in a
60,000
day?
thoughts a day.
And
Yeah.
a lot of them are weird, bad, but we can control that.
1,000,000%.
And you think
Absolutely.
that's key.
Well, that's your ground zero, because if you don't have that right? You could have the best moral compass, but if your compass of how you feel about yourself is off, you're putting bricks on a bad foundation.
Yeah.
And then the house of cards is going to fall down. It could be 3 weeks, it could be 2 years, but eventually you're just putting stucco up on a wall that's not there.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you got to believe in yourself. And that took me 46 years to figure out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know, it's the truth. The older you get, the wiser you get.
Don't let that rumor get out. It might spoil people think about me. But yes, it took me a long time. I did not have that. Even going through buds, I did not feel good about myself like I do now.
Well, I was going to ask you that if you think you had a certain quality or a certain mindset going in, like, do you have, or has becoming a SEAL made you that way?
It changed my life, mostly for the better. But going there, I didn't know that I had the skill set, the fire in the belly, as they like to say, or just the ability to mentally be strong and say, no, I can do this, like I will do this at all costs. And that was something that came once I went to Buds. I didn't even know training for it, what I was going to be going through until I got there.
Yeah. No, the mind is powerful. I always tell that story. He's sick of hearing the story. I remember going tubing, and we were in the Long Island Sound, and I was so afraid of the Long Island Sound, I would not go in the water. And I was holding onto a tube, and they would whip us around to try to flip us. And they did. I was holding on with Uncle Scott, and they flipped the tube, and the tube came back around. They could not believe I was still holding on.
You had the death grip on there.
Yeah.
Death grip. There was no way in the world I was letting go. I don't care.
How was the water?
In the
Was it
mind.
turbulent? Like, was it choppy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've
and
never
it's just,
been. That's why I asked. I'm not familiar.
And I mean, he couldn't. He was obviously much stronger than I am, and he couldn't hold on. And there was no way. The whole boat went hysterical. I could see them because I was still on. There was no way it was coming off. And that's your mind. It's powerful.
Yeah, I love it. So let's touch upon Buds.
Yep.
So this is Buds happens before Hell Week.
Buds, Hell Week is the 5th week of Buds.
Is the 5th week, okay.
6th week, I'm sorry. 5 weeks before.
So take us through that process and what you guys go through.
So you go there, and again, you're sizing everybody up, and you're thinking, okay, some of us are not going to make it. You know, you make friends with people. Everyone's really cool because, I mean, them making it or you making it is not going to take away from them. You could have a graduating class with 50 people. You could have 8 people. So it's not like we're only letting X people through and you're in a competition with everyone else. You really want to befriend everyone and motivate each other and kind of just be there for each other because nobody has great days every day. Everyone's going to have a bad day. We're humans. First day there, I still remember 25, 30-foot rope climb, whatever it is, out on the beach, and I'm not even checked in yet. I mean, I'm there in civilian clothes, and I'm all happy because I got off leave, and I'm here to take my shot at being in the teams. And I watched a guy climb up the rope, and he slid and fell. So he ripped off all the skin on his hands, burned in from 20-something feet.
He's out.
Gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy's gone, and
he's gone.
He didn't even start, and I haven't even checked in. I mean, I'm terrified now at this point because I'm thinking,
Wow.
again, I mean, it could have not happened, could happen the third day, what have you, but the fact that it was ironic that I'm not even in yet, and it was a real, adjust your seat to the upright position. This is going to get real.
Time to get uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we had our head shaving party, so they shave your heads, and everybody starts off, and you are worthless. Okay, I mean, they're saying everything to you, and this is where the mental comes in because anybody can take a beating. I mean, of course, it's a matter of how long would we want to. You're wet and sandy, so the first thing to do is say, go jump in the ocean. So now you're in your fatigues and your wet T-shirt, and you're shivering because even though it was spring at that point, it's cold. It's the Pacific Ocean's cold always. I mean, yeah, surfers like to go in it, but they're not sitting in it for 8 hours a day.
And they're in a wetsuit.
So you're cold, you're shivering, and they're like, roll around in the sand. So now you're a human sugar cookie, and that's basically what I was for almost a year. Literally, wet and sandy and miserable is the worst feeling you will ever go through, in my opinion. And I've done all kinds of challenging things.
Yeah.
Nothing's like that.
Do you like the beach now?
No.
Or you don't,
No,
really?
I don't.
Yeah, I can imagine you wouldn't.
I don't. My wife will be like, do you want to go in the water? I'm
No,
like,
no, I really
I
don't.
spent 1,000 hours diving under this, so I literally, I'll go to the beach, but no, I don't like to run around, throw a football. I'm literally the guy that will sit on a towel.
Right.
And I mean, if I go in the water, it's briefly, but yeah, I don't love.
Flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
It's
I'm sorry, I
funny.
didn't mean to interrupt. I
Not
just
at
had to
all.
ask that question.
It's great. I'm glad you did. So you're wet and sandy, and then You can go back in the water. But the reality is the sand's never gone. Okay, so it gets trapped in your crotch, your armpits, and you start to chafe, and you're literally off and on chafing for the entire time of buds, every day. It's just
that's
annoying.
5 weeks, you said, right?
Well, this is buds is 6 months.
Or 6 months. Oh my
But
God.
this is just leading up to Hell Week. Like every day they punish you, it's just to prepare you for the beatdown that you've never had in your life. Okay, so every day they do some education. You're in the classroom, which is great because you get wet and sandy, and then you're writing with a pencil, and there's seawater coming off you, and it's smeared on, and it's just
Crazy.
it's annoying. Okay, I mean, buds is just one long annoying fest.
So that's just to see your mental
course.
capacity. That's not to motivate at all. Cause we
No,
know that,
they're degrading you. They don't even call you by your name. They're insulting you. I mean, they're just beating you down. However, every instructor there has gone through this. So you know that they've been through it. At least you don't think, okay, this is someone that can't do what I can do. You
They've done
want
it.
to be with them. And they also know that if you make it through this, you might be operating with them in a real world op. So the point is, they want to make sure that you're not, some loose cannon. I mean, okay, great, you're in shape, you're a triathlete, but can you go 3 days with no sleep and still operate? Can you be tactically sound? Are you mature enough? Are you mentally focused? I mean, these are all things that we didn't even know we had until we got thrown into the fire, metaphorically.
Now, SEAL is called an operator, right? Is
Yep.
that correct? So you guys are all operators. You guys are all SEALs.
Correct.
Very interesting. You guys are the best of the best. Like it is when we need stuff done as a country, we call you guys. Like we're like it. I look up
He
to
gets so
athletes
pumped.
and I get so pumped.
He
Like
does.
you guys are the top of the top.
I mean,
It's awesome. It is so cool.
yeah, SEAL Special Warfare operators, we go through arguably the hardest training in the free world. I mean, it
Yeah.
can certainly go back and forth. And the Army is Delta Force, and there's Development Research Group, which is Dev Group is the old SEAL Team 6, if you will. They're the ones that
Robert O'Neill. And
Yeah, exactly. Got Bin Laden. I mean, you're talking about the guys from the regular teams that we were all pulled go to Dev Group. Okay, so they're like the elite of the elite. We call them the Jedi because they go through more training than we do, and you have to be an operator for a few years before you even go to that. But even just going through BUDS, absolutely the hardest because it's not just land warfare. You got to swim, and if you want my opinion, the one thing that will equalize anybody is the water. It's unpredictable.
Right.
It's cold.
Yeah.
It's dark.
You got sharks.
Yeah, I mean, freaking exactly. Taking even out the element of the shark, just the undertow. I mean, being knocked around and you're tired and miserable and you're carrying gear, it can really throw you. And then obviously, it's life-threatening in some cases.
Sure.
So yeah,
Has
the
it
water-
hardened you, do you think?
Oh,
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I guess the better question is I'm sorry, can you empathize with people that maybe, oh, I shouldn't say that. Do you understand somebody who makes excuses? Can you relate, or does that just anger you? Like,
No, it doesn't anger me at all because I came from such a polar opposite background that I was a sensitive kid. I mean, I'm still sensitive. I watch, the Sarah McLachlan commercials with animal welfare and I'll start crying. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I
oh,
love
come on,
animals.
that's
my
a
cats
killer
are my
commercial.
kids. So, like,
Yeah.
anytime I see any dog shivering or a cat out in the street, I'm like bawling. And obviously, I feel infinitely the same for children or people, but to me, animals are, they're more helpless.
Right,
So
exactly.
That's why
No,
it
I
strikes
get you
a
on
chord
that.
with me.
I absolutely
But I do empathize because I know life is hard. Life is harder than any workout will ever do.
So who's in charge of the BUDS process? Like who is leading all you guys through the training?
So there's a command center which has, from the commander, typically a captain in charge of Naval Special Warfare Center out in Coronado, outside San Diego, all the way down through chiefs, master chiefs, petty officers, all the way down. There's 3 different phases. There's first phase, which is where they just hammer you. Then the second phase, which is your demolitions, and then dive phase. So there's instructors for all the phases. They rotate shifts. It's very well organized.
And do you guys cross paths with Delta Force?
I did not. I mean, I
No.
know that certain times in they may. I did not.
Because Delta, from how I understand it, they're usually on the ground dressed as civilians in that location to pick up information and surveillance. But you guys are the ones you call to get the job done. Is that correct?
I mean, anything that's anti-terrorism, there could be a crossover of Dev Group and Delta,
Yeah.
Marine Force Recon, and even the pararescues. All of the elite special forces do have a hand in it. And ever since 9/11, it's changed. And obviously that's way after I was out, so it's a different world now because the quote-unquote enemy was what's much more spottable when I was in, and now it's a different world where plain clothes is the norm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I see a podcast in the future of just you two.
Oh, I
Talking
have
about this
so many
Christmas
questions I
trees.
want to dive
I
into.
know. But I have to ask Joey, if I have to put you on the spot, if somebody is contemplating getting on the program and losing weight, give me the top 3 things you would tell them.
Top 3 things is I would say get rid of the one thing that is holding you back. And I'm talking about it could be, nutrition-wise, whether it's, if they're smoking, I tell them you got to do it, period. Like, it's not even debatable that if you're smoking, you've got to quit smoking.
Yeah.
Alcohol, I don't want to get on a soapbox and say it's inherently bad, but if you're drinking 3-4 days a week, you're not serious about fitness.
Yeah, sure.
Period. Now, again, I'm not saying that you can't go out one night and have 3 or 4. I'm a lightweight. If I have one drink, I'm good. So
Right.
I'm a cheap date, respectively, but I could go out and have a drink 2 or 3 times a week, and it won't change my fitness. But again, the reason I'm limiting it into one is because to me, my fitness and how I feel and my mood when I interact with people is way more important than a buzz any day of the week.
So you're saying get your priorities in order.
Have to. Change your priorities.
Change your
Paradigm
priorities.
shift.
Yeah.
And if I could chip in on that, so I love to drink, as you know. I love to go out down the shore. I haven't drank in a week now. I actually like the feeling of not drinking. I feel like I'm accomplishing something.
That's a lot in a week.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying, I'm not surprised by what you're saying, but I am surprised that quickly your mind has changed. I'm not doubting that your body feels good, but sometimes the mind will fight it and be like, well, wait a minute, don't I kind of miss that? That's amazing that you've turned a corner that fast.
Or that just tells you what they were doing all the shore, down the shore, too much shore this summer.
Where was my call?
He's going to come by sea, Joey.
You can parachute in.
I love it.
But I can't thank you enough for joining us today.
Thank you.
I know we can go on for hours and hours, and I think we'd love to have you back.
It was the highlight of my day. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Joey.
And Joey,
thank you.
also, too, thank you for your service. Seriously.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for your service.
you.
You're going to choke me up now.
You guys are very, very
being
noble.
filmed on
Seriously.
9/11.
Thank you, guys.
So, Joey, thank you so much for joining us today. It
Thank
was
you for
our
having
pleasure, our honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Joey's from Mud, Sweat, and Tears, located in Verona on Bloomfield Avenue. What's the address?
It is 561 Bloomfield Ave in Verona.
Yeah, call Joey, and Joey will kick your ass.
Yeah.
Right,
He'll
Chris?
whip you into shape.
Chris knows
Believe me,
firsthand.
he'll whip you into shape.
Yeah.
I'll never forget my first workout. I'm sitting there, I'm dying, I'm on the floor, and Frank walks over, turns around, and goes, "Nobody cares, work harder." I'm like, "Thanks, Frank, appreciate it."
Nobody cares. Work harder. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us.